Hello and welcome to my ocean wave painting. I have my color set out. I have a Celeste blue, I have a primary blue, French ultramarine, Payne's gray, I have an emerald green, I have a kind of periwinkle color, I have sap green, yellow ochre, and white. Now I'm using a photo I found online. I did a sketch of it with some colors, and then you're going to see me start painting it. As I'm going in, I'm creating those backgrounds first. So the flat water before the waves, I'm going to come in and get any areas that I think look similar in color. We're doing wet on wet here, so I am wiping off my brush when I switch colors up, kind of coming in with some light greens under my wave, the flat waters, more solid blues, adding a little bit of that green into it. I'm leaving some areas open while I'm painting where I'm going to end up adding the crest of the wave, all that water crashing down. Now when you look at a wave, the important thing to notice is that at the base, before the wave starts, the water tends to be a little bit darker as you go into the wave, and as it's curling up and around, the color gets a little bit more translucent, and then we have those crashing down areas. So I'm going to be trying to get all those different tones. Again, remembering to leave some areas white. I'll come back in with more whites, but because we're doing wet on wet, I don't want all my white contaminated with these other colors. I don't want all these colors mixing in. Okay, as I go in, I'm going to look at my reference image. I found one online. And I'm looking at how those waves kind of roll and separate. So I'm going to work on the second wave down here. It has a little bit lighter of a top, so I'm going to make a lighter tone to separate it from the wave behind it. And then I'm going to paint those strokes in the direction I see that wave kind of rolling over. So I'm going to make kind of strokes that roll with me, towards me, kind of have an arch towards them after I get that top of that wave in. Here I noticed I didn't quite have the right shade I wanted, so I added kind of a lime green out and also added some yellow to my palette just to switch up some of those colors, really get some variation in tones here as I go in and get those lighter areas of the wave. Also, I'm going to be mixing these in with some of my whites to get some different tones in those whites when I come in and paint those too. Now I'm going to switch to my filbert brush, and I'm coming in with those whites, really getting a lot of texture in here, laying the white on pretty thick. Because we're doing wet on wet, it is picking up some of the blues from the background, and that's fine. I don't mind it picking up some of that. I like those different colors in my whites. It really helps add some life to them. So if you don't want so much of that picking up, lay it on pretty thick when you go into the whites and worry about moving it around again. I left those open areas for this. Now also, as I'm getting my whites on, I'm noticing that I need to change up under the waves in some areas. So I make these chains of colors, so I have some variation where it goes lighter, darker, and I can mix those chains up and then just take a little bit, really add some definition. So here, adding some peaks under my waves that are going to be coming through, really mixing those colors in, changing up those tones a little bit so that they're softer transitions. I'm going to keep going with this filbert brush for a while, adding more whites. I'll let you guys watch as I keep going in for this part. this area over here that I left open, I'm going to start getting some whites in it, and I'm probably going to pull some of that color back into it too. So I'm going to be showing you this side right here. I'm going to just come and bring more white into there and kind of focus on that direction that wave was rolling again. I have those two areas that I'm going to still fill, and then I think I fast forward here showing you my brush, how much paint I have on it. Not too much. I'm really just focusing on getting that tip with paint in there. Just really touching lightly down, getting that white to stay pretty pure. I'm going to keep working on the white here, and then we'll see where I am in just a second. So as I'm going in and filling in my white, I keep looking back and forth at that image. I see some areas where under the waves gets a little bit darker, so I'm making sure I have that, and the wave kind of wraps around those areas and encloses them a little bit. It's just kind of a little peekaboo spot through my wave, so I'm going to make sure I get those darks in, really work around them with my whites to keep some more of that texture in that wave. was filming here, I did take a break just to go in and do some of the finer detailing and not worry about the camera because it was kind of in my way and hard to work with. So you'll see me continue to get color on there, and then we'll see the finished piece in just a second here, and I'll talk a little bit more about how I went about finishing this piece. Okay, so now here's the finished piece. You can see I added a lot more detail to make those waves all look like they're rolling and curving up. That's all in how I put that paint on. I used an angled brush for this part, really went in, moved that paint around carefully, added some solid whites, some areas where you can see that texture really still on the canvas. I relied on that texture to help give the illusion of those crashing waves, really brushing my strokes the direction the water was moving. Hope you enjoyed this.